Today is the fifth Sunday of Easter. Our gospel text is taken from John chapter 15, verses 1 through 8. It's the parable of the vine. I'd like to take just one phrase out of that parable where Jesus tells the disciples that you are cleansed by my words. If the road to hell is paved with good intentions, I would suggest that the way to heaven is strewn with useless baggage. Stuff that we thought was really important, and maybe it was at a certain point in our life, but we realized after a time that we didn't need it. We let go and we moved on. Look at little children. It's both puzzling and charming the way they will cling to something. And it might be the most grubby little thing, a dirty blanket, an old toy, something they found in the garden. But for some reason or other, they cling to it. If adults cling to things, it's not so charming. Might be a bit puzzling. But we expect, as a sign of growing up, that you can let go and move on. And there's so much we need to let go of in order to move on. This is one of the central tasks of maturation. A core truth driving that is the fact that we're creatures. We don't create ourselves. We are created by God with a certain intent and purpose, a manifestation of God's love and goodness and beauty. So we don't plot the future. We discover it by letting go and by going where we are led. Ownership in this view of the world is a relative concept, not an absolute one, and in the end, not terribly important one. Many years ago, I had a conversation with a priest who'd spent a number of years working with Aborigines in the remote regions of Australia. He said they didn't have a word for thank you. It wasn't because they were selfish, self-centered. It was because they had no concept of ownership, as we do. You'd have to wonder why ownership is so important, even desperately important to us. Is it necessary? Is it selfishness? Is it lack of trust? I don't know. Be worth thinking about. The book of Job opens with a marvelous sentence, a stark truth. Naked I came from the womb, naked I shall leave. That's a fact of life. It's not a religious truth. It's an existential truth for all of us. The gospel today reminds us that it is the Father that does the pruning, the cleansing. It is the word spoken by God, a word of love, even if it is sometimes challenging and even painful. We are cleansed by God. Better to let God do it, in fact. Mostly our lives are inhibited, obstructed by a thicket of unreality that we fabricate, thinking that we are building our lives. We are creating some kind of a successful person. Growing old will teach us that that successful person has to die if the true self is to emerge. And the true self is the real fruit of a life well lived. It's why the pruning happens, the paring back. What a wonderful thing it will be when we come to the twilight years of our lives, assuming we do come to the twilight years of our lives, and we can say, I'm so pleased. It is such a joy that I've been able to let go of so much, that I've let God's word cleanse me. God's word cleanses us and is spoken to us, is there for us all the time, every day, in all experiences. We can hear that word and benefit from that word and be cleansed by that word simply by facing the truth. Listen, be attentive, hear, submit to the truth. Don't prevaricate, dissemble, hide, pretend. The truth will set us free. Let the truth shape your life. The truth of God's word can cleanse you. All this is situated within a beautiful concept whereby Jesus uses the word abide. Abide in me as I abide in you. This is an invitation of love. Let me love you into freedom.